welcome back into East Coast Bias. So we got an awesome game, OKC in Denver, and then getting ready, getting settled in, Cavs, Pacers, and the Cavs going to get back into this and make it a series. And the Indiana Pacers put up, 80 points in the first half. The most interesting part of that game was the whole back and forth with Mathurin and DeAndre Hunter. Just an embarrassing performance by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Raheem, not many people thought this Cleveland team coming into the postseason could possibly be fraudulent, especially after the Miami series. And I know the Heat aren't great, but they just completely took care of business and they dominated them. To me, what the Cavaliers just not showing up is maybe the biggest surprise of the postseason. What happened?
I'm still stunned by this. You're talking about a team that went 64-18, offensive rating of 121 this season. I mean, you're talking about one of the most dominant teams in the NBA this year, SRS of 8.81, second behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the manner in which they're being dismantled is it's absolutely stunning. I cut the game on, and before you know it, they were down 20, 30, and even 40 points. So it just kind of just feels like the Indiana Pacers post All-Star break, they're a complete juggernaut. Now, I don't want to overreact because when you look at the market right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 8-point favorites in Game 5. So the market just doesn't. Yeah, they don't seem to think that this series is over at all. So, it's easy to overreact to what you saw last game. Obviously, you have to check the injury status on Donovan Mithcell. But, initially after Game 4, the Indiana Pacers, they opened up minus 240 favorites to win the series. And this got bet up to minus 320. And I know that there's some sharp people in the market who probably think the Cleveland Cavaliers aren't done. I'm not one of them, but I know there's going to be people in the market who think Cleveland can come back.
Well, they can only come back if Donovan Mithcell is healthy. And the time that we're recording this, we don't have the results of the MRI, whatever happened with his ankle. But if it's an ankle that kept him out of half of a game, there are two ways to look at this. The glass half full would be that Cleveland conceded the game. Now, they're not in a position to be conceding any game, so that isn't really a theory that holds much water to keep this thing going. Glass half empty is the man's hurt, and it's an ankle, and ankles don't bounce back. You don't get over an ankle in 36 hours. So the challenge for Cleveland this series, they can't score. I mean, the 39 points in the first half, 14 turnovers. What are they doing? 14 turnovers in the first half at home in the most crucial game of the entire series. And honestly, the most crucial game for this franchise since LeBron was there. And all they can do is come out and throw the ball all over the ballpark. What are we doing out here? This isn't middle school. Yes, if you want to be gracious about it. The injuries on the Cleveland side, especially with Garland, and Garland's not all the way back, and he did not have an efficient shooting night on Sunday. But that doesn't explain their inability to match up physically, defensively. If you want to say that Hunter is still dinged, if you want to say that Mobley is still dinged, okay, they're dinged by the moment. Get up. The moment is right now. It was Game 4. They're not coming back in this series. They need a miracle in terms of the health situation with those guys, and I don't see that coming down the pike. And the number 7.5, it's like, what are we, just out here playing games without any evidence of what's happened from game to game to game? I will take the Pacers plus the 7.5. Thank you very much, Brian Barrett.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the Mitchell thing, to me, I'm skeptical of the ankle diagnosis because if you see the video, it doesn't really look like an ankle. And this is somebody that has dealt with calf things throughout the years. I mean, last year, remember, he goes down in the playoffs. He hasn't been the most durable guy. And as it pertains to Garland, I agree with you, House. He hasn't looked the same. And I just feel like he made such dumb comments about the Heat targeting Tyler Hero. Our game plan is looking at Tyler Hero. It's like, dude, you're the same guy that the Celtics went after last year. Like, I understand what the game plan was, but probably shouldn't say it when you're going to get targeted throughout this playoff run. But the other component to me about this is just, you look at Miles Turner being the best big man in this series, and I know Evan Mobley had to miss a game with the ankle, but 20 in that game. He's now 17.8, 7.3 boards, 2.5 blocks, 57.1% on threes. He's been awesome. Neesmith is now 12 of 22 from three in this series. So Indiana is just, and maybe part of it is just because they had that slow start. Raheem mentioned basically, I mean, since the new year, they've been one of the best teams in the league. It just maybe some of their role players get underrated. Like somehow Nembhard is a significantly better playoff player than he is a regular season player, which is a good thing to have if you're an Indiana team that has all this depth. And with Cleveland, we've been raving about the depth, and Ty Jerome has not been great in this series, right? Their role players have not been in the same spot. And when I look at sort of Indiana going forward here, I'm thinking, well, this is the team that, from a Celtics perspective last year, gave them, even though they swept them and the Celtics lost in all the rest of the series, that was their toughest series. And it wasn't a great offensive rating, but it was by far the best offensive rating they had against any other team. And think about this. The one game Cleveland trips them up, it's because they come out with this like 1-2-2 zone where they put Evan Mobley at the top of it. How long did it take the Pacers to figure that out? One game. They said, oh, all we have to do is screen this, and then one of your best rebounders is at the top of the key. It was just such a quick adjustment for that Indiana team. Like, I really feel like Indiana had been underrated entering the postseason. And look, if they can wrap this thing up and win this game on Tuesday night, they're in I don't want to say the driver's seat, but they're in a really good position because say Boston comes out of that series against New York, they're coming in there with a bunch of guys that are banged up. We don't know what the heck's going to happen with Porzingis. I quite frankly think that they should be resting him more at this particular point in time. But Raheem, that's an Indiana team that, looking at the scope of things now, I think you got to take them seriously.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, with the way they're playing since the All-Star break, the way they're dismantling this Cavs team, you definitely have to take them serious. And then last year, that was probably one of the closest 4-game sweeps that I've ever seen in the NBA postseason. So I think they are a force to be reckoned with. But
I think Raheem, I think it actually was. I think it literally was the closest sweep ever. Yeah.
Interesting. One thing I want to say, though, because, House mentioned betting the Indiana Pacers. If you're going to bet the Indiana Pacers, bet them right now, because if there's some negative news about Donovan Mitchell, this line is going to go down. So you don't want to hesitate on that. You want to jump on that and get in and out.
Yeah, and House, one more thing on this. So say it ends the way we think it's going to end, which is Indiana wins this series. Cleveland had this unbelievable regular season where they won 60-plus games. But if you remember the narrative prior to the season, it's, hey, can you keep Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland? Can you keep Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen? And we haven't talked about that all season long because they've been a juggernaut, right? They've been the second most dominant team in the NBA this season. Are those questions going to be coming back up? And does it make sense to move on from one of those core four guys? Or you just say, hey, we had bad injury luck with Garland. We had bad injury luck with Evan Mobley in that game 3. And now we have bad injury luck with Donovan Mitchell. We just run this back and try it again.
I would lean more in the direction of running it back because of the bad injury luck. But if something occurs, if somebody wants to make you an offer and you can do something strategic with one of those 4 players, I think you do it. Again, with this Cleveland team, even though you have some guys that have genuine playoff chops, especially Donovan Mitchell, obviously, I think as a unit, they're still like kind of finding themselves, and they were put in the unexpected position of having to give all of these minutes to guys like Ty Jerome. Max Strus has been there, and he's fairly reliable, but DeAndre Hunter, how many high leverage games has that dude been in? So like there are important elements to the Cleveland team, to me, that need this experience, this seasoning. Like, guys, you're getting punched in the face. How are you going to respond to that? I think it's reasonable for the Cavaliers to think about, on the margins, a little bit of additional help offensively. I'm not really that worried about them defensively. I think, this is an element of, the mixing and matching of personnel, because Darius Garland, he was supposed to play in game 1 of this series. And they've had to adjust on the fly. They haven't been very good at it. And so this is why they are where they are now. But I don't think there's a big overhaul that Cleveland needs to consider, Dream.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. When you lose in the manner that you lose, they're losing right now, I do think you have to really think about things going forward. And this is the NBA. And, Brian Barrett knows how things work. We got the new CBA. Boston is going to have to make some big changes. Win or lose, this is probably their last run. We've heard Shams actually come out and say that the Celtics are probably going to be – NBA teams are bracing for the Celtics to make some big moves. And you look at the fact that Giannis is on the market. You look at the fact that KD is on the market. You look at the fact that Devin Booker could be on the market. You lose like this, you might have to explore getting one of those guys. And you have a lot of pieces. They have a lot of depth. They got Darius Garland. They got, guys like Evan Mobley. They got Hunter. They have a lot of pieces that they could, make moves and try to improve. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it makes sense. And Raheem, if I hear the word apron over the summer, I'm just going to start burning an apron every time I hear about it, because the second apron stuff, it just completely take it over the NBA, where we're talking about it feels like every other day in the discourse, unfortunately, and it's going to affect my Celtics. All right, when we come back, we'll get you our best bets right here on East Coast Bias.